In the late 90s, a group of musicians rose from the ashes of a platinum-selling band named Days of the New to form a new group called Tantric. With Portuguese-American baritone frontman Hugo Ferreira at the helm, they quickly caught the attention of Madonna's Maverick Records and seemed to be destined for stardom. Their self-titled debut album, after all, went platinum and was powered by hit singles like Breakdown and tours with rock giants like Kid Rock and Creed. But despite their promising start, Tantric's journey was marked by label troubles, lineup changes, and struggles that would test their very survival. You can't really talk about Tantric without first talking about Days of the New. Days of the New's history begins in the 90s with frontman Travis Meeks. Meeks grew up in Charlestown, Indiana, which was separated from his future home of Louisville, Kentucky by the Ohio River. It was in the early to mid-90s Travis met bassist Jesse Vest growing up in the same neighborhood. A few years later, he met drummer Matt Tall, and they bonded over their mutual love of bands like Metallica and Pantera, and they soon formed the group Bad Dreams. It was a nice escape from life in town, with Tall remarking, "It's a hole in the ground, about 2,000 people, a bunch of its housing projects. They were built for this ammunition plant in the 30s. There's a lot of people on welfare and it's real negative. Everybody's parents are on drugs or alcohol. It's the kind of place where you have to stick together as kids." It wasn't long after that the trio formed another group called Dead Reckoning, with the members claiming it sounded more in line with Metallica's Injustice for All album, but not quite as nasty. But by 1995, the band fell apart. It was the same year that Meeks left the town for Louisville after his dad remarried. Travis set up shop in a bedroom with an acoustic guitar and a 4-track recorder and a lot of free time. Meeks started a new outfit called Days of the New and recruited Louisville native guitarist Todd Whitener, and then later regrouped with Vest and Tall. Originally, the plan was for the band to be all electric instruments, but the demos that Meeks had come up with were on acoustic guitar and elicited such a good response that he unplugged his guitar permanently. In fact, Meeks had written the entirety of Days of the New's first album by himself, and his bandmates were a little apprehensive about it, with Vest telling the interviewer, "Me and Matt were kind of reluctant to go with the mellower sound, but we learned to incorporate the rhythm section to more melodic tones. It was a good combination." The band started playing clubs, and Meeks' vocal style frequently saw comparisons to both Alice in Chains frontman Lane Staley and The Doors' Jim Morrison. In fact, around the time of their first album having success, Meeks recorded a cover of The Doors' The End with the surviving members of the band. Days of the New soon found a management team, according to Billboard, after just playing 3 gigs. And their big break happened at the Harvest Showcase Festival in 1996, a festival that highlights emerging talent for music industry scouts. They soon signed a deal with Outpost Recordings, which was distributed by Geffen Records. Outpost issued Days of the New's debut record in 1997, and the album achieved remarkable commercial success, selling in the order of about 1.5 million copies worldwide, and it produced 3 singles, including pretty significant hits like Touch, Peel, and Stand, which dominated the Billboard rock chart for 17 weeks. The Downtown, meanwhile, reached the top 40, and Shelf in the Room was also another top 40 hit. I've got this time on my hands. You are the ones who want you. Shelf in the room. The success of the group's debut album led to high-profile touring opportunities, including a slot opening for both Metallica and Jerry Cantrell in 1998. But internal conflicts began to surface early in the band's career. Tensions became publicly evident when the band members appeared with physical injuries after allegedly being involved in a brawl. Travis Meeks' relationship with his bandmates deteriorated rapidly. Before the Metallica tour, Meeks publicly stated that his fellow band members were holding him back, and he soon afterwards announced their dismissal. The situation was initially downplayed by their record label, who dismissed Meeks' comments by saying, "Travis just talks." But before the band issued their follow-up record, Meeks fired the rest of the band, and he continued using the band's moniker. The dissolution of Days of the New's original lineup became official in February of 1999. Now, there's been 2 conflicting narratives emerging regarding the breakup. Meeks claimed that the other members were jealous of his higher pay because he wrote most of the songs. In a 2002 appearance on The Howard Stern Show, Meeks criticized his former bandmates, stating they had no spirituality, they had no brains. Vest, meanwhile, responded, "The day he fired us, we were cutting our first demos for this same Tantric material," referring to Tantric's first album. The songs had no vocals, but that was soon to change. After leaving Days of the New in November of '98, guitarist Todd Whitener, bassist Jesse Vest, and drummer Matt Tull were pissed off, broke, and working day jobs. The original idea that they had was just for them to be a three-piece with Whitener fronting the group, but he decided he wanted to just focus on playing guitar. So they rallied around Whitener's songwriting, and they formed a new outfit called C14, which stood for Carbon 14, and they decided to look for a singer. They reached out to a Detroit-based singer named Hugo Ferreira, formerly of the band Merge, in early 1999, to see if he would be interested in starting a new project together. The former Days of the New members had previously met Ferreira when one of his bands opened for them on one of their previous tours. Ferreira stayed in touch with the members after that tour, and they admired his distinct baritone voice. Ferreira played in a variety of bands in the Detroit scene that left him frustrated. He recalled, "At the same time, I was living in Detroit and was playing in the local band there, but there was something about Todd's music that really touched me, and I wanted to be part of that." He soon drove down to Louisville and jammed with the musicians for about 2 weeks, passed the audition, and joined the band. He headed home to Detroit, packed up his belongings in a U-Haul, and headed down to Kentucky. Ferreira was born in Angola, Africa. He soon moved to the U.S. as a kid, first settling in Massachusetts, and he became a self-taught musician, but he had deep musical roots. His father was a musician, and his grandfather was a symphony conductor in their native Portugal. After graduating high school, he moved to Detroit with his brother. The quartet started working on songs almost immediately, coming up with something in the order of 45 tracks pretty quickly. Luckily for them, the former members of Days of the New still had some pretty good relationship with program directors in Kentucky and leveraged those relationships to get played on local radio, which of course attracted the attention of several labels. At one point, the band had around half a dozen labels wanting to sign them. Ferreira recalled where the other members of the band were at this point in time, recalling, "The bass player was working at Hooters cooking wings, the guitarist was picking up what he could, and you don't even want to know what the drummer was doing." As for himself, he stated, "We were beyond broke. All I had was a TV and a VCR, and I sold them to pay for the U-Haul to move to Louisville. I was tending bar at some cheesy beach club and winning karaoke contests singing Frank Sinatra songs, competing against toothless drunks with names like Billy Bob Joe." C14 soon signed a deal with Madonna-owned Maverick Records. They were signed under the name C14. They eventually decided that numbered bands were played out and changed their name to Tantric. Apparently, nobody liked their original name, including their manager and the label. As for why they chose the name Tantric, Vest told the Kansas City Star, "We were almost done with the album, and some girl runner at the studio came in talking about Tantric something or the other, and the word caught everyone's ear. When it came time to work on the group's debut album, they enlisted Alice in Chains producer Toby Wright. Maverick issued the band's debut record in February of 2001. The first single, Breakdown, was a hit out of the gate. I know the breakdown, everything is gonna shake now someday. I know Breakdown topped the mainstream rock tracks chart, and it was written during a particular low point in time in Whitener's life, with him remarking, "I started writing it in Amsterdam when I was there with Days of the New. I had just gotten back from experiencing the Amsterdam life and was chilling in the hotel, and I had this moment of realization. I saw my whole life in my head, and it was right at the end of my Days of the New career. I could see what was getting ready to happen, and the band could see this isn't what we wanted." He added that the song was about knowing people who will hold you back in life and make you realize something much greater. The second single issued, Astounded, reached number 7 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. They also had a third single in Morning, which peaked at number 18 on the mainstream rock tracks chart as well. I just found my way. Something's can't be lost, but now I found a new. I can see the signs, no wonder I can never keep satisfied. In interviews, the topic of Days of the New, of course, came up quite frequently. Critics made note of how Tantric's sound sounded like a meaner or harsher version of Days of the New. The band remarked that they learned a lot about working with frontman Travis Meeks, and they didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. They also went on to reveal they learned a lot about the music business and were much smarter in negotiating their future record contracts. Whitener told an interviewer, "I think just the ingredients in the band. As far as the members are concerned, that's a big part of it right there. They said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right down the middle. It's all equal." The members used their experiences with Travis Meeks and Ferrera's own frustration spending time in Detroit to drive the lyrical themes behind the tracks on their debut record. Titles like Hate Me, Paranoid, Breakdown, and I Don't Care make that pretty evident. Vest did reveal that he ran into Meeks after leaving the band at a local nightclub, and the meeting was cordial, albeit brief. The tour to support their debut record saw Tantric open for the likes of Kid Rock, Three Doors Down, and Creed. Their debut record, which was self-titled, went gold, with some articles mentioning it was nearly platinum by 2004. The album peaked at number 71 on the US charts. Tantric's follow-up album came at a time when their label was undergoing litigation with their parent company over mismanaging and losing millions of dollars. Couple this with music downloading eating up label sales, and the band felt a great amount of pressure to deliver a hit. Ferrera told the Knoxville News Sentinel, "Illegal downloading is no different than a kid walking into a store stuffing a CD into his pants and walking out with it." Their record label Maverick insisted that the band include a cover of a Fleetwood Mac song. The band one day was hanging out, turned on the radio and heard The Chain and took it as a sign. The group's second album, titled After We Go, arrived in 2004. The album saw the group collaborate with extreme guitarist Nuno Bettencourt, who grew up with Ferrera. Together, they co-wrote the lead single Hey Now, which peaked at number 8 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. The second single was a cover, The Chain, which I previously mentioned, which peaked at number 36 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. The final single, After We Go, peaked at number 30 on the same chart. The album, meanwhile, was their highest charting of Tantric's career, peaking at number 56, but it didn't appear to be certified gold. Jesse Vest remarked how being in his 20s, he was now married and had 2 kids, and being away on the road, it was very difficult. It would foreshadow what was to happen with the band. He remarked how when he was a kid and recording Days of the New's debut record, you have to remember these guys were still in high school, he had to go to the principal's office. He asked for 2 weeks off to record the album. The principal surprisingly said yes, and so the principal got his name listed in the credits, or at least as a thank you. When talking about the album's lyrical themes, Vest added that a lot of the songs are pretty vague, but they dealt with universally known concepts like standing up for yourself and perseverance. Over the next several years, the entire band, minus Ferrera, left. Vest left the group to spend more time with his family. Whitener left thanks to his frustrations with the band's business side in dealing with Maverick and their parent company, Warner Brothers. Whitener revealed to Sound Vapors, "So we were working on the third Tantric album that never got released. Warner Brothers just sort of held on to it and held it hostage, and it never saw the light of day." Matt Tall, meanwhile, was arrested over drug charges, putting his future in the band in jeopardy. Ferrera was soon the only remaining member, and he assembled a new band based on contacts he had made with the members of Three Doors Down and Creed when they had previously toured together. He ended up re-recording the group's third record from scratch. Joining him on this journey was former Fuel drummer Kevin Miller. The ironic part of this whole story is that the same thing that happened with Days of the New seemed to happen with Tantric. By the time the band released their third album, Ferrera was the only remaining member, and in interviews he did for the band's new album at the time, appropriately titled The End Begins, he revealed that the band's label went bankrupt, so they left it. It was also indicated he might have had a caustic relationship with his bandmates, but he didn't really shed much light on it. He also remarked at the time, "Tantric is my baby. I helped create it, now I'm starting it from scratch." The members of Tantric who left moved on to other musical projects. Todd Whitener played under his own moniker, while Jesse Vest played in the Louisville Crashers. Tall, meanwhile, served a prison sentence and kept a low profile. Then in 2014, Days of the New, to a lot of people's surprise, reunited and played some shows that ended in disaster due to Travis Meeks' volatile behavior and substance abuse issues. Tall, Vest, and Whitener soon quit the reunion, and the tour never finished. The trio started a new band in 2019 called Blitzkrieg, and Ferrera, meanwhile, continues to play under the Tantric moniker, releasing 5 more albums and touring. Barrera, however, has found himself in trouble with the law, primarily related to business misconduct. In 2017, he was charged with operating an illegal car dealership in Massachusetts. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at Rock Roll True Story sticker.